Hi, this is Ken Morton Jr. with the Hosel Rockets podcast, and we're sure glad you're joining us again. This is podcast number 31. And this week, we're kind of going back a little bit to our roots, talking specifically about golf product. At my heart, I'm a retailer, and our Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop is kind of the backbone of kind of what I do each day. And one of the products that we have in that store is going to be the topic of today's podcast. It happens to be our number one selling apparel brand that we have in the store, and started with very low expectations way back in the day. We were one of the very first ones back in 2008, I believe, to bring in this kind of upstart Travis Mathew brand. And it over time has slowly grown into what has now become the biggest brand in all of our store, with a huge concept store. We actually have a giant half of a VW bus that's been converted into a display. And what's so remarkable about it is that it's a incredible combination of what great product and, more importantly, I believe, is great culture can do to a brand. They have an incredible vision on what the end consumer wants out of the product and how really to differentiate them in the marketplace out there. And every product, every new category that they go into, that end consumer is really kept in mind. And it is very different than a lot of what the other golf club companies and golf apparel companies are. With a Nike and Adidas, it's about stretch and performance and it's equipment for the body. And while a lot of those different products are pieces of what Travis does, they have a vision of a look and a type of product that they believe that their customer entails, that's much more built in around after golf and travel and ease of use and all those kind of things. And it really makes them very, very unique, I think, in the golf industry. Travis Mathew was started back in 2007, and what felt like a necessity to kind of offer fashion attire that looked really good but was versatile. I mentioned that après golf, the going from the golf course out to a nice dinner, they wanted it to be golf attire but not necessarily look like golf attire. No one was bridging that gap between product that you can play golf in and that looks really great away from the golf course. Golf attire was kind of a uniform that you wore on the golf course, but then you would change before you went to go dinner, and they really wanted to blend those two things. The guest that we have on for this particular week's episode is now CEO Ryan Ellis, and he started as the very, very first employee hired back in August of 2007, and we've been blessed to work with him. I was looking through his LinkedIn account, and he went from a sales professional to the West Coast sales manager to a sales manager to the operations manager to the national sales manager to the national sales and merchandise manager to VP of sales of design to president, and now CEO. And unfortunately for Ryan, I'm not sure there's anywhere higher for him to go. I think he has reached the pinnacle of Travis Mathew. And for that, we are all benefits, because he does a fantastic job in what he does out there. It really draws inspiration from the culture and that lifestyle of Southern California surf, sand, and sun. It is a true lifestyle brand, and they're really expanding past what traditional apparel is with footwear and with into ladies now, and all kinds of lifestyle goods with belts and socks and everything. And again, everything in order to try to achieve that perfect balance between function on the course and fashion and comfort and superior style off the course. They're clothes you can live in. That's something that they use a lot in their marketing. They are partnering with a whole bunch of different celebrities and athletes, as Ryan's going to go in and tell us into a little bit. And I think probably more important, or probably one of the important things to share, is their recent purchase by Callaway Golf. Callaway is a behemoth in the golf industry, and now is owns things like Top Golf and OGO Golf, and really has a backbone and a strength of finance to where they can actually go in and assist a company like Travis Mathew and provide them the necessary funding to have them grow and expand. And we're seeing Travis Mathew retail stores pop up in malls and growing their on-course presence and off-course presence, and things reinvest back in stores like ours where they can look at point of purchase materials and displays and really try to rebrand and help kind of grow their foot space in a lot of the stores out there. Chip said something when they made that acquisition, and I think it's fair to read here for the podcast. It said, with its golf heritage, culture of product excellence, and again, that culture word is important, and double-digit growth in golf and lifestyle apparel business, Travis Mathew is a great fit with our business, brands, culture, there's culture again, and our strategy to grow in areas tangential to golf. This acquisition, once completed, is expected to create significant value over the long term, and that they look forward to working with Travis Mathew management team to maximize the brand's growth potential. And that growth potential has been wild, particularly since COVID. Their own business is near doubled over the last year. I know in our store, it's up in the 60 to 78%, and more Travis Mathew brand advocates are utilizing the product than ever before. So we're excited to have Ryan on to talk to us about the brand. Again, as CEO of the brand, he is the one that is managing the development of the apparel, of all of the footwear line, belts, all the accessorial lines, but more importantly, heading up this really unique culture that drives everything that they do. It has as much to pull from the sand and the beach and the surf that's right across the street from them in Huntington Beach as it does the greens and fairways of the golf courses that they play. And I think that's what makes it so unique. So without further ado, please welcome Ryan Ellis, CEO of Travis Mathew. Well, Ryan, thank you for joining us very much. At Travis Mathew as a brand, give us a little background on kind of how it started and kind of the impetus behind the brand and how it got rolling.
Yeah, for sure. It's very different today than it was when we started. I would tell you, there wasn't a lot of people that knew what they were doing when we started the brand. We started with a PGA Tour player, a head golf professional, and then an aspiring pro at the time. We're kind of the guys with the concept, and then they hired myself to run sales and product, and a head designer, and Joey Quirk, who's actually our VP of design right now. And we were running with our head cut off a little bit, but I think, the concept was pretty simple. Like, can we make clothes that you can wear on and off the course? At the time, everything looked kind of like a golf uniform. Even some of the nicer stuff, it really looked like, wow, you have to be like a single-digit handicap to wear that, and you're only going to wear it golfing. And everything got so techy and sporty that was like, could we combine the two? Because it was either casual wear or technical wear. And so that was, kind of the idea. And then from an aspirational standpoint, can we combine kind of the surf culture with a little bit of rock and roll and elevate it and make it aspirational, but can we show respect in an industry that was at the time and still is a little bit on the conservative side? So that was kind of the concept, and I think from a design standpoint, it was very clear on how to design into that, and obviously got a lot of feedback from customers those first few seasons and didn't know anything about fabric, and so we were learning that, going to Peru consistently, which no one else was. Most people were sourcing out of Asia. And in 2010, we kind of the light clicked and we found our signature fabric, a 60-40 cotton poly blend that was like the perfect balance of lifestyle and performance. And so we had this killer design, aspirational brand side that we had already nailed, and then we matched it with fabrications too. That really worked, and then it all started coming together because, as you know, in golf, especially in performance sports, fabrication is critical. And so 2 years later, Bubba Watson wins the Masters, and then we were just off and running at that point. And I think, the group was so competitive, all being from athletic backgrounds. I played basketball. Most of the guys obviously played golf. And so it was just a hardworking group determined not to lose and figure it out. And it took us, the first 3 years to really figure it out. And definitely times where the business might not have went forward if we didn't have a great investor that really trusted the team. And then, cut to, I think I was mid-20s, and so was Joey when we started. Now hit 41 a month ago, aging myself, but 14 years later, here we are.
It probably, maybe except for maybe Ashworth, that was maybe 20 years before Travis. Do you really think that kind of middle of the road, on course, off course design really is kind of what opened the flood doors for you guys because you were so much different than everything else in the marketplace?
Well, to be honest, I think Jay Lindbergh kind of opened it up a little bit because I think that was cool and fashionable. I still feel like it was techie and very sporty and very golf, but it was great. And that's one of those brands where it did feel like, hey, if you're going to wear Jay Lindbergh, like you better be really good, which is cool. It was really aspirational and cool, but it missed this big opportunity to me of and it's an incredible brand, so they stick to who they are. But what we saw out there was yeah, but there's got to be something more inclusive that if I'm not a single-digit handicap, well, if I'm a single-digit, I can wear it, but if I'm not, I can wear it as well. And I think there's this big market for something, we coined a phrase, we're having a party and you're invited. And we didn't want to be that stuffy, more kind of New York, European, whatever you want to call it type of brand. We wanted to be an inclusive brand that was fun, looked great, but really didn't take themselves too serious there. And I think, yeah, Ashworth was that for sure. And then I think JL opened the door of okay, we know people are looking for something younger, something a little more fresh and different, but it has to have a little more mass appeal, and it has to be a lot more inclusive.
You alluded to the beach surfing lifestyle, and certainly with you guys being a Huntington Beach company right there on the coast of California, there's lots of influence. Kind of give us a scope of kind of how that has maybe shaped and influenced the company over the years.
I think it really beach is the root of our happiness. You see a sunset, you see, the warm water, the waves. I've even joked here, or not really joked actually, we're working with the city of Huntington Beach and planning. I want to tear out all of our plants out front and put 50 palm trees out there, because just that's the vibe. It's aspirational. It's we always want to be on a beach somewhere. That feels like home to us. And so we've really incorporated that in design and really in brand of I think you think of Tommy Bahama 30 years ago, and it just feels like, hey, I'm sipping a cocktail on the beach. Now, Travis Mathew's not that. We're many different things because it's work and play. It's elevated. But there's a piece of Travis Mathew that's makes you feel like you're somewhere on vacation. And that's why, our video series we called Life on Tour, that's what it is. It's everybody's journey. And, we all want to live that 3-day weekend. And I think where would we want to live it other than at the beach?
When your designer is kind of looking for inspirational points and drawing on different influences and doing the design board process, walk me through kind of how that works and how the steps go about designing an entire line like that.
Yeah, well, it starts a little like I just said. It's really where do we want to travel? What we're thinking about our guy, where does he want to go? So, maybe he's going to Tahoe because he's doing something in the mountains, or maybe it's summer in Tahoe and he's at the lake. Or are we going to get really, really think about an aspirational guy? Is he going to Monte Carlo, or what is the most aspirational place he wants to go? And so I think it starts with, all right, kind of where are we with the brand? Where have we been? And where does our guy want to go in the future? How do we keep evolving? What's the next thing for him? So we think about that, and then we really think a lot about color palette and how that plays into it. And we look at deep into the Pantone book of, okay, what is going to resonate? What's going to be new and fresh? And then how do we tie a theme to that? And then when we put the theme together, our theme probably more than most people is less literal. It's not okay, we're going to Tahoe, so every polo needs to have trees on it. We may have a couple that have that inspiration, but it's the theme is driving the color palette, and it's just driving our thought process on how we want to bring that delivery to life. Not necessarily literally, we're going to show elements from Tahoe, say specifically on polos and T-shirts and headwear and things like that.
You guys are, at your core, a golf company, but again, you alluded to that you guys are just as much of a off the golf course brand now. How does, when you're doing that design work, what kind of influence going off the course and out to dinner and all that kind of stuff have in with the design of the apparel that equally has to have perform out on the golf course as well?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's interesting that people might not know, when you look at if you walked into our retail store, you wouldn't think golf at all. Like, certainly we carry a lot of polos, shorts, headwear that you would golf in, but you don't think golf at all. There's not a lot of golf imagery. But what's interesting is when we design a line, we actually start and build what I would call, quote unquote, the golf collection, really the stuff that you would carry in a green grass, country club, resort, or a Hagen Oaks. So it starts kind of like we start with the golf, and then we go, okay, now let's broaden it out and think about what other categories are guys wearing, how we want to attack those categories. And because a lot of that's direct consumer focus, you have a lot of quicker turn. You don't have to build it out as far. So, but I think again, I go back to fabric. When you think about how do we make product that's playable in golf, but actually you can wear off the course, because that's when we really win as a brand. If you can play in it and it looks great off the course, it's a home run. And it starts with fabrics. Again, I think everybody thinks that to do performance, it has to be 100% polyester. But at the end of the day, what is performance to you? For us, it's not necessarily quick dry. We're not all in place. The Hagen Oaks is a good example. There's a lot of time during the year. You're not going to be sweating when you golf. So you don't necessarily have to have the highest moisture wicking shirt. But what are you doing? As I said before, a guy's a traveler. So he doesn't want it to wrinkle, doesn't want it to shrink, he doesn't want it to fade. So we're finding fabrications that are extremely durable, extremely lightweight, easy to travel, don't fade. We pre-wash all of our garments, which in the industry, people will say that. There's not a lot of companies that do that. Most shirts will shrink in the 5% range. We don't have any shirts that shrink more than 3%. So we go through rigorous testing on that. So for us, the off-course stuff is driven on, the same thing. How does it travel? How do you wear it? And from a design standpoint, we're really, really focused on, starting small. So if we get into a category like woven shirting, it's starting small, testing, learning what our guy wants, and then expanding based on that. So it's like kind of that crawl, walk, run strategy. And we've proved that to be really successful, because I think people get into categories and say, let's say outerwear. We dabbled into, vests and jackets. Like, rather than building a whole collection, there's start small and then grow it from there. I think people see the opportunity, and so they attack it and they do it wrong, and they never get a chance with that customer again. Once you've screwed it up, they don't want to come back. So we've done a great job of building slowly into those more lifestyle categories, whether that's lifestyle outerwear, whether that's woven shirting. Denim is one of those things where I personally believe we have best-in-class denim. Now, it doesn't sell like AG denim does. We don't have 50 SKUs of it. We have 4 SKUs, but it's incredible. It's lightweight. It's got stretch. Really the most comfortable denim you're ever going to find. And we're very thoughtful when we go to do that. And it all everything starts with fabric. I think our brand's a little different. Most brands start like we did when we started the brand. Like, let's have this brand idea, run with it, and then figure out what we're going to do from a product standpoint. We start with fabric, even before design. Then we go into design, and then we talk through, okay, how do we want to sell and market it? So I can't tell you how many times somebody says they have the best hoodie or they have the best T-shirt, and they're pitching that online. They do an amazing job. They suck me in, I buy it. And then I get it, and I'm like, it's okay. And now I'm not a customer for very long, because the product that they told me was so great isn't it? So the backbone of us is, let's create the best possible product, and then we'll market it next. So things like our Cloud collection, things like our Perfect series, those weren't like marketing ideas and then we found a product. Those were products that were that great, and we said, hey, we really need to market this, and we need to market it consistently. What we've done in the past, probably wrong, is so many new products so quickly, and we just moved on. And so as we've gotten bigger, we've learned, hey, some of these products, there's so many customers that have never seen them, even though we're kind of bored of them and we're used to them. We need to continue to market them because they're best in class.
I know as you're talking about marketing, you guys have been very distinctive in bringing out all kinds of outside athletes and outside influencers in with your marketing. I know up in our area, 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo has been created kind of a unique partnership with you guys. Talk about the influence of all those outside athletes on the brand as a whole.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. I mean, we've had, probably over 100 pretty high level ambassadors with the brand, over the last, especially the last 6 or 7 years. And the main reason why is all these guys golf. They go into Pelican Hill, and you see a front table, you go into Pebble Beach, you see the front table, you go into Hagen Oaks, you see the front table or display. And we've been kind of the cool brand in golf. And so all of this has happened very naturally. Jimmy Garoppolo is a great example. He was buying product from our retail store for a year before we really, had anything significant with him. And he loved the brand. And so what we've done over the last 2 years is say, well, that's great. Jimmy G loves the brand, and maybe you'll see him wearing it, a hat, like randomly on a TV show or a post game or somewhere. But there's really nothing official. Like, how do we give back to a guy like Jimmy? Well, let's look at someone like him and say, hey, why don't we try to do something official with him? And by doing that, we can obviously share a lot of assets. He's got, I think, over 1 million followers on Instagram, and obviously we can build his following as well. And so we've created these deeper partnerships with guys like Jimmy, who's such a big fan of the brand, is already pushing it. But now we can get a lot more out of it together. And I mean, you couldn't get a better guy than Jimmy G. I mean, he literally looks better than our models on the product. So that's been really exciting. We also signed Matt Ryan. We just signed a wakeboarder, kind of getting outside of just a normal athlete, and Steele Lafferty, who's created some incredible content. He has like 3 videos that have gone viral with over 20 million views. And then we've got 2 other big partnerships, one in MLB, one in the NBA, that we're going to be announcing in the next 2 weeks. And we've actually got a big celebrity potential signing that could happen in the next month as well. So we're not slowing down. The brand's on fire right now, and I think it's really important that when it's on fire, we invest, to make sure that the future years' growth looks just like it does right now. We keep that momentum going, and I think you're going to see more and more of that. We have some incredible partnerships right now, one with Barstool Sports, where we've got quite a few initiatives that are going to be rolling out. We're also doing a lot of marketing with the NFL, where we've got ads with the NFL. We've got commercials with the NFL. So we've been able to, again, through our influence and through our ambassadors, create these incredible partnerships that now are bigger. Before it was like everything's organic. We want to keep it organic. That's the way we want to keep it. Now we have these relationships like, let's take this to the next level. And we've really, especially in 21, like really taken these relationships to the next level. And I look forward to the next few years of really growing those.
Well, congratulations in advance on what sounds like some exciting announcements here in the next little bit. You guys do have a sub-brand as well called Quater, and a fast-growing footwear line. Dive into that a little bit and tell us kind of where that's been and where it's going.
Yeah, a little history. So Quater was founded by Bob McKnight, who was the former founder and CEO of Quicksilver. Travis and I were very involved in that line. And the idea started in action sports in belts, and belts was just such an underserviced category that it made so much sense. We walked through 50 shops with him, and no one really had a belt selection. Now in golf, obviously there's a lot of belts, but outside of golf, no one was really carrying belts. And Bob had kind of come to me and said, hey, we really want your help with this project. And I said, everything I have to give is in Travis Mathew. I don't have any time for it. When you're ready to come and golf, call me, because you will be. And there's a great market for belts there. But I love the brand concept. They built an incredible logo. And about 2 years in, he said, yeah, we're ready to go to golf. And so we did, and we had a really successful launch in golf. We're doing over 3 million in belts, like right off the bat. It was really strong. The belt line was fantastic. When Callaway purchased Travis Mathew, they also purchased Quater at the time as a licensing deal. So through that purchase, we owned it, and Travis and I got together and said, well, now we can decide what we want to do with it. And we had been feeling like we actually had a small amount of footwear in Travis Mathew. The challenge with Travis Mathew is, being a lifestyle performance company, we really didn't feel like, one, clothing companies getting into footwear, it's a huge challenge. 2, from a performance standpoint, is the end consumer going to take us seriously in performance footwear? And so we thought with Quater, we had this really cool opportunity with an already great brand, great name, great logo, and a really successful belt business to say, hey, can this be a footwear and accessories business? And so we started going down that road. We hired a VP of footwear, which is going to sound funny, but of all places came from Skechers footwear. But Skechers had built a really good golf line. It just obviously wasn't aspirational. And we thought, we know how to design it. We know what it should look like, but we need the comfort to be there. So we need an expert in comfort. And this person obviously was that, and created 4 silhouettes in golf footwear, and then redid our casual footwear as well, which came out great. And the idea with Quater was, you look at all the athletic lines out there in footwear, and there's a lot of useless technology. There's stuff, whether it's a color pop, whether it's a seam detail, whatever that is, mesh paneling that really doesn't serve a purpose. It just looks techier and sportier, and the logos are just huge. And so there's a place for that for sure, but there's also a gap there to do something clean and use useful technology. So that was a concept we started with. Originally launched with golf footwear as well as casual footwear. Actually, our number one selling shoe is our daily shoe, which is a casual footwear piece. Just on our e-commerce alone, I think we did over 5 million in that shoe. So it's been an incredible start to that. And in the golf footwear, I think we've unlocked a couple of things. One, there's not a lot of shoes living in that $130 to $180 price point where it's great quality, but it's not ridiculously priced. Everything either lives under or over that. And so we found a little niche there to say, okay, we've got, it's not, we want something with good value, but at the end of the day, we want it to have quality as well. And the comfort's certainly there in those. So that was kind of, we rebranded and relaunched it, unfortunately, in 20. So we were supposed to come out with it 3-1, and then pandemic hit. And so it kind of, everything hit the fan and relaunched really in 21. This is really its first true big season. And then we've got a lot to come, and actually adding some of the stuff that we originally didn't start with, which is, using John Rahm. John Rahm's obviously been wearing it and has won wearing it, which is really exciting. And we're going to make a big play with him, especially for the Masters and for the U.S. Open next year, which he won this year. And we're going to be doing some more color pops to tie back to bring a little more of that to life, because I think the one thing with Quater we noticed is it's almost too put together. Like if you looked at Travis Mathew, what was cool about it, what people liked is like, there's definitely some designs that were all over the place. And I think with Quater, it's like almost just too finished of a product. So we're going to start bringing in some color pops and things that maybe are a little more outside the box to really bring life to what we feel like the core of the line, which is those really core kind of essential, really clean knit pieces.
Well, I know for us, it's sold exceptionally well right out of the gate. So we're excited to see more and see that grow. You alluded to it. Talk through us about kind of what Callaway's purchase of Travis Mathew has kind of meant and maybe its influence on the brand.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know. I think when we went through the process, obviously looking at private equity and looking at a public company, I don't want to get too deep into that, but there's definitely some nuances of both. But we sat down with Chip, the CEO of Callaway, and they were looking at a purchase. He sat down with us and said, look, where are you guys? What are you guys doing with the brand? Are you going to be here? And we kind of said, well, I don't know. What does that look like? Obviously for me, it's like, I love the brand so much. I'm so passionate about what we're doing. Like I'd love to be here forever. Now, I don't know if that's in the cards, but so that's kind of what I told him. And he said, good, because if you guys aren't in it, it's probably not the right company for us, because we're not, we don't have experience running a clothing company. Again, keep in mind this is in 2017, so they've got a lot more experience now over the last 4 years. But that was really appealing to me, because I thought, obviously there's places we need some help, warehousing for sure, accounting for sure. So operationally, we could need some help to scale. So they'd be a good partner in helping scale. But at the same time, from a product, sales, marketing, retail, all of those brand areas, they're going to stay out of. And true to their word, they have. And we've actually moved all our warehousing under them, and they've done it was painful. We did it during COVID. We had 8. So you guys, I know you guys felt a little bit of that pain with our shipping. We had 8 systems we had to change. We moved over to SAP. We moved our warehouse to Texas. So there's a lot of pain points there. But now we get to a year later, and we're so efficient out there that it's not perfect, but there's no way we could have done out of our building what they're doing out. So operationally, they've been so helpful, and I don't even know how we would have scaled. We probably would have figured it out, but it would have been even more painful. And then from a brand standpoint, they'd let us do what we want. And we go. I've got a meeting with the CEO of Callaway this week, and I'm going to pitch this big celebrity we're looking at right now, in addition to some retail initiatives we have. And if we give them and show them sound business practices and show them the return they're going to get, and we've come through on that return every time. They've been unbelievable. And the biggest thing is, when you're a growing brand like us, is when you have an investor, it's very difficult to fund the inventory. So when you're growing 100% like we are this year, that means what you have to buy for the next year, you keep dipping back into the hole. And if you have to have almost unlimited pockets to do that. And so having a public company and being with Callaway, from a cash flow perspective, has helped us because if we had our previous investor, we probably would have only grown 40% this year. There's just no way he could have funded the inventory or would have been willing to take that risk. And I think, with Callaway funding that inventory, we had plans this year of 25% growth and we grew 100%. So definitely good buying practices, but also the ability to scale when we need to with Callaway.
So we all need to thank Uncle Chip is what you're saying.
We definitely need to thank Uncle Chip.
Awesome. Well, as my last question here is kind of where does the brand go from here? What's next? You've given us a couple hints of maybe some influencers and marketing out there, but when you look out 5-10 years, is there other categories? What kind of vision do you have for Travis Mathew?
Yeah, I don't go 10 years. I rarely go 5. I think we've got so many creative ideas here. Sometimes I have to stop and go, okay, I need to stop giving our marketing and product guys more ideas because we've got too much on our plate. And so I try to live in the 18 month and the 3 year. 18 months is that's what we're doing today. 4 years is okay, that's what's coming next. So our big kind of initiatives over the last, in that 18 month range are active. We launched an active line, or we're launching an active line in November, and then a full launch in May. Very excited about that. Obviously with COVID, active's at an all-time high. Lounge is at an all-time high. We've got an incredible loungewear line, and then obviously casual wear is on an all-time high. So we're capitalizing on all those key categories. But active was a big one. Quater footwear sort of reinvestment. We've reinvested in that team in a major way. We've put a couple critical members of the team together. We've spent a lot of time and money on tooling, and so all that you're going to see coming over the next 18 months. And then women's is kind of the last piece on there. We got to the point with women's, in my opinion, 14 years in, it's almost a disservice to women to not have a women's line. The reason we hadn't done it is it's mainly guys in the design team, and myself obviously as well, and we didn't have the vision. We hired Lindsay Browder, who formerly was designing the women's line for Peter Millar, and I've had a relationship with for the 14 years of the brand. She was formerly a buyer 14 years ago for Glenn Wild, and we've had a great relationship. We flirted for 8 years of doing a women's line. We both had a very similar vision of what that would look like. We never were able to link up, and over the last 9 months, we finally did, and put pen to paper and conceptualize what that idea would look like. And we're now 5 months into designing, and it looks fantastic. We've got new logos built for it. It's still going to be called Travis Mathew, but it'll have new branding. So you can clearly identify it's Travis Mathew, but you can also identify it's different than the men's line. And her saying, which I'm sure you've heard in the industry, is we're not just going to shrink it and pink it. This isn't a men's line that we're turning into a women's line. This is a full women's collection, and it will have golf, but it won't be focused around golf. It'll be focused around California kind of lifestyle beachwear, but more elevated than that. So it's going to feel as comfortable as lounge, but it's going to be something the woman can wear around every day, and there will definitely be a golf component to that as well. So very excited about what we're doing in women's. And then I'm looking out further and saying, okay, that's 18 months. Those are 3 really big launches. I think youth, to me, is probably next. It's probably a disservice to youth right now that we're not offering something. And I think for that 8 to 13-year-old, the kid who probably doesn't want to wear what his dad's wearing, it needs to have a different spin. So we're starting to conceptualize and think about, okay, if this is 23, 24, what does he want to wear? How do we make this feel different? And so that's going to be a lot of fun to kind of build out what that looks like. I think that's really exciting for us. In addition to that, obviously, the long-term plans are still continue to update Cloud, which is the most comfortable product you'll ever wear. And what does that look like? We have 3 new fabrications over the next 3 years that are coming out that are absolutely incredible. When we think about our Perfect series, what other products do we have that are best in class that we can add to that? And then we think about heater. One thing that Callaway's really helped with, but we doubled down on last year during the pandemic, before kind of golf got hot again, we doubled down on golf and said, we're going to reinvest in golf in every way we can. And obviously we've done that in the team, having the number 1 player in the world in John Rahm. We've got another big announcement for another player that's a top 50 player in the next, and probably a top 25 player in the next few weeks, hopefully. So a lot of cool things going on then. So we're going to reinvest in golf, and we're building that too. We've never had a golf-specific collection, it's always been lifestyle performance, and now we've got our heater series, which is pure performance, and we're continuing to add to that, where we've got a short sleeve polo, a whole shorts that go with it, and now we've got a long sleeve polo, and that's going to turn into, I think, a really nice capsule that if you're playing in extreme conditions, it's 95 in Florida with humidity, typically we'd say, hey, Travis Mathew's probably not the best brand because we're doing more of the lifestyle performance. But now we've got product to offer in that category where we can compete with the athletic brands, and still we figured out a way to take our spin on it so it still looks more lifestyle, it looks more upscale, and you can wear it off the course.
You have your hands full over the next couple of years, buddy. So that sounded like a 5 or 10 year plan, even though you didn't say it was one. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I would encourage all the listeners out there right now, if you haven't done so already, follow Travis Mathew on Instagram. The photos and that travel notion around the world, you will just instantly be transported to vacations with every image that they put. I know for us, our Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, our flagship store, Travis is our #1 men's brand by a long shot because of how wonderful the product is. And Ryan, that starts with you. I just want to tell you how much we appreciate all the care and the energy you guys put into a really, really great apparel line.
Well, you guys have been such incredible supporters from day one, and it's always a two-way partnership. You guys have an incredible store. You put on incredible events up there, and couldn't ask for better representation of the brand, from the build-out to kind of how you display the products, that we really appreciate it as well.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening in on Hosel Rockets, our podcast, and we will look forward to talking to you again this next week.